You wake up at the same time every day. You commute to a job you tolerate. You spend money on things you don't need to impress people you don't like. And at the end of the month, you wonder where it all went. You are living in a prison without walls. The bars aren't made of iron. They are made of debt, desire, and the desperate need to fit in. As the philosopher Rousseau once observed, man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. But here's what they never told you. You volunteered for this. You signed up for your own imprisonment, and you thanked them for the opportunity. Today, we're going to expose the invisible architecture of modern slavery, a system so elegant, so perfectly designed, that most people will live their entire lives without ever realizing they're trapped. By the end of this video, you'll see the world differently. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. The debt trap. Let's start with the most obvious chain, debt. The average American carries over $100,000 in total debt. Student loans, car payments, mortgages, credit cards. You're told this is normal. You're told this is how responsible adults live. Lies. Think about what debt really is. It's borrowing from your future self. Every dollar you owe is a dollar of your future labor that's already been claimed. You haven't worked for it yet, but it's already gone. The ancient Greeks had a word for this. They called debt slavery, bondage by contract. In ancient Rome, if you couldn't pay your debts, you could literally become the property of your creditor. We never abolished this system. We just made it invisible. Today, you don't become someone's physical property. Instead, you become property of the system. You can't quit your job because you have payments to make. You can't take risks because you're one paycheck away from disaster. You can't say no to your boss because your mortgage depends on his approval. The borrower is slave to the lender. This isn't ancient wisdom. This is your Monday morning, but debt is just the first chain. What comes next is even more insidious. Manufactured desire. Here's something that will change how you see everything. You don't actually want most of the things you want. Your desires were installed. In 1928, Edward Bernays, Sigmund Freud's nephew, wrote a book called Propaganda. In it, he revealed how corporations could manipulate the masses by linking products to unconscious desires. He didn't sell cigarettes. He sold torches of freedom to women who wanted independence. He didn't sell bacon. He sold the hearty American breakfast to doctors who wanted to seem authoritative. Every advertisement you've ever seen is designed not to inform you, but to create a need that didn't exist before. You feel incomplete, so you will buy completion. That new phone won't make you happier. That designer bag won't make you more valuable. That luxury car won't make people respect you more. But you believe it will, because you've been told it will 1,000 times a day since the day you were born. The screen programs the brain, and the brain opens the wallet. If this manipulation is starting to disturb you, hit like and subscribe, because we are just getting started. Because what I'm about to reveal next is the mechanism that keeps the entire machine running. The treadmill. Picture a hamster on a wheel. It runs and runs and runs. It never gets anywhere. But it can't stop because stopping feels like dying. This is your career. Psychologists call it the hedonic treadmill. You get a raise and for about 2 weeks you feel great. Then you adapt. The new salary becomes normal. You need more. You get a promotion. 2 weeks of happiness. Then adaptation. You need more. The treadmill never stops accelerating. But here's the sinister part. The treadmill was designed this way. Your employer knows that if they give you just enough to survive, just enough to feel progress, just enough to have something to lose, you'll keep running forever. Golden handcuffs aren't gold. They're fear disguised as reward. The stock options you can't cash yet. The pension you'll lose if you leave. The healthcare tied to your employment. Every benefit is actually a chain. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote 2,000 years ago, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. You're not running towards something. You're running from something. And what you're running from is the terrifying possibility that you've wasted your life. But it gets worse. Status prison. Here's a question that will haunt you. If no one could ever see what you owned, what would you buy? Most purchases are performances for an audience that isn't watching. You don't buy the expensive watch because you need to tell time. You buy it because you need others to see that you can afford it. You don't buy the luxury car because it drives better. You buy it because of what it signals to strangers at traffic lights, strangers who don't care about you at all. This is called status signaling, and it's one of the oldest chains in human history. We dress for judgment we assume is coming. In 1899, economist Thorstein Veblen called it conspicuous consumption, the act of spending money specifically so others know you spent it. But here's the trap within the trap. Everyone is so busy signaling their own status, they barely notice yours. We buy things we don't need with money. We don't have to impress people we don't like. You're performing for an empty theater. You're competing in a race where everyone loses. And the moment you realize this, the chains start to loosen. But there's one more chain, the most invisible of all: time theft. Every system of slavery throughout history has had one thing in common: the theft of time. Plantation slavery stole your hours through force. Modern slavery steals your hours through choice, or what feels like choice. Think about your day. You wake up, commute for an hour, work for 8 to 10 hours, commute home, you're exhausted, you eat something quick, watch something mindless, sleep, repeat for 40 years. Where did your life go? The philosopher Seneca calculated that most people, if they lived to 70, would find they'd truly lived only about 7 years. The rest was consumed by obligation, distraction, and sleep. Time is your life. When someone takes your time, they're taking your life 1 hour at a time. And here's the cruelest part. You're told to be grateful. Grateful for the job that consumes you. Grateful for the weekend, 2 days out of 7 that supposedly belong to you. People are frugal in guarding their personal property. But as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful. You'd never let someone steal your wallet, but you let them steal your life hour by hour, day by day, and you thank them with your labor. But how did we get here? The education scam. The system didn't happen by accident. It was designed. And it starts with education. School teaches you to be an employee. Think about what school actually trains you to do. Sit in rows. Follow instructions. Ask permission to speak. Ask permission to use the bathroom. Complete tasks on someone else's schedule. Get graded on compliance. The Prussian education system, which most modern schooling is based on, was explicitly designed to create obedient soldiers and factory workers. You were trained for obedience, not for freedom. You weren't taught how to think. You were taught what to think. You weren't taught to question. You were taught to memorize. You weren't taught to create value. You were taught to follow procedures. Graduate, then obey forever. And then, after 16 years of conditioning, they hand you a diploma and $100,000 in debt, and they call you educated. The ancient Greek word for school was skol. It meant leisure. Education was supposed to free you. Instead, it became the first chain. As the author John Taylor Gatto wrote, school is a 12-year jail sentence, where bad habits are the only curriculum truly learned. But the conditioning doesn't stop at graduation. Distraction engine. There's a reason you can scroll for hours without thinking. There's a reason you can't focus anymore. There's a reason your attention span has collapsed. Design. Every app on your phone was engineered by teams of psychologists, neuroscientists, and behavioral economists. Their job: to capture your attention and never let it go. You are the product being sold. The variable reward mechanism in social media triggers the same dopamine response as slot machines. The infinite scroll removes natural stopping points. The notifications create anxiety when you're away. Your phone is a slot machine you carry everywhere. A former Facebook executive admitted, "We knew we were creating something addictive that exploited a vulnerability in human psychology." But here's why this matters for slavery. Distraction prevents awakening. Bread and circuses kept Rome asleep. As long as you're entertained, you won't notice the chains. As long as you're scrolling, you won't question your life. As long as you're distracted, you're controlled. The Roman poet Juvenal warned about this 2,000 years ago. We didn't listen. And now the circuses fit in your pocket, but there's still hope. The fear loop. At the core of every chain is the same thing: fear. Fear of poverty, fear of judgment, fear of missing out, fear of being different, fear of being alone. Fear is the mind killer that keeps slaves compliant. The system doesn't need to force you into compliance. It just needs to make the alternatives terrifying. What if you quit your job? You might lose everything. What if you stopped buying things? People might think you're poor. What if you question the narrative? You might be ostracized. Fear is the chain. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who was literally born a slave, understood this deeply. He taught that most people are enslaved not by external chains, but by internal fears. It is not he who gives abuse that affronts, but the view that we take of it as insulting. External events don't enslave you. Your reactions do. Your fears do. The moment you stop fearing what the system threatens, the system loses its power. Freedom begins where fear ends. But knowing this intellectually isn't enough. You need a practical escape plan. The escape route. Here's the truth they don't want you to know. The prison door was never locked. You have the key. You can walk out anytime. But walking out requires 3 things. First, awareness. You cannot escape a prison you don't know exists. This video is step 1, seeing the bars. 1. Eliminate unnecessary debt. 2. Question every desire before acting on it. 3. Define success on your own terms. 4. Reclaim your time ruthlessly. 5. Build skills that free you, not chain you. Second, courage. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. The system's greatest weapon is making you believe you have no choice. But you always have a choice. You can choose to live with less. You can choose to need less approval. You can choose to measure your life differently. Freedom is a choice. Third, patience. You didn't get chained overnight. You won't break free overnight. But every chain you identify, every desire you question, every fear you face loosens the grip. The philosopher Lao Tzu said it best: a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Your single step starts now. But let me leave you with the most important truth. The final truth. The greatest lie ever told is that you are powerless. The system needs your participation to survive. Without your debt, banks collapse. Without your consumption, corporations crumble. Without your compliance, the entire structure falls apart. You are not a prisoner. You are the prison. The chains become wings when you stop believing in them. Modern slavery doesn't need whips. It needs you to believe there's no alternative. It needs you to think this is just how life is. It needs you to pass the same chains to your children and call it providing for them. The system is not broken. It was built this way. But here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you see through it, the moment you name it, the moment you refuse to participate in your own enslavement, you're free. Not wealthy, not comfortable, not socially approved, but free, truly free. As the philosopher Diogenes, who owned nothing and lived in a barrel, said when Alexander the Great asked what he could do for him: "Stand out of my sunlight." That's all you need to say to a world that wants to own you. Just step out of my way. I'm taking back my life. You came to this video because something felt wrong. That feeling was correct. You were not crazy. The exhaustion you feel is real. The emptiness behind the purchases is real. The sense that life should be more than this, that's the most real thing of all. The system was designed so you'd volunteer for your own imprisonment. It was built so you'd compete for your chains and call them achievements. It was engineered so perfectly that most people will live and die without ever knowing they were slaves. But you know now, and knowing is the beginning of freedom. The question isn't whether you'll die. The question is whether you'll live truly live before you do. If you made it this far, comment "Unchained" to prove you're awake. The truth is never comfortable, but it's always worth knowing. History has more to teach us. Subscribe if you want to learn. Until next time, stay curious, stay free.